Welcome back to Donington Park, everybody. The Vertex Caterham 7 UK Championship about to be in action for the second time here on the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. Exciting and dramatic and trouble-filled race yesterday. Certainly kept us guessing until the flag, and it was a race that, even after the flag, actually kept us guessing because it ended under red flag, and there was a bit of confusion as to whether Paul Donkin or Will Smith had won the race. It was Will Smith who was handed the victory in the end, with Paul Donkin second and Matt Armstrong in third. There were a whole host of drivers that didn't make it to the flag, though, and they hopefully will be able to get out for the second race today. Spectators watching on with interest down at the chicane. They've already realised, I think, that that's a really good vantage point, particularly in the wet. There's usually some drama down at that part of the circuit. Others using this opportunity to get themselves a snack and then find a ringside seat for what will be an exciting 17 minutes of racing. They've got a bit longer than normal, actually, to find a vantage point, the spectators, because we'll have 2 green flag laps here ahead of the slightly shortened race. That's the reason the race is being shortened, to allow time for the extra formation lap. So Will Smith heads towards Redgate Corner. There were umbrellas starting to be put back up, I believe, in the spectator area just then, although it's actually quite sunny over on the pit straight. Donington Park is not the biggest racetrack in the world, certainly not compared to Silverstone, for example, where we were racing with British GT a few weeks ago, and yet the conditions are very different at opposite ends of the track, it would seem. So that's going to create a bit of a challenge here at the Craner Curves. You can see it's pretty dry, actually, and that's what we want, really. Caterham racing usually best in the dry conditions. Will Smith then starts from pole position, courtesy of that win yesterday. Paul Donkin will line up alongside him. Row number 2 for Justin Armstrong and Lewis Thompson. Armstrong the top AM driver on the grid. Then it's Ben Simmons and Charlie Lauer on row number 3. Row 4 shared by Carl Jones, the second AM driver, and Matt Armstrong for Team Parker Racing. Cameron Cooper and Chris Fraser, a pair of AMs together at the back end of the top 10. Then it's Oliver Smith and Tom Eden sharing row number 6. 7th row, Gary Curtis and Rupert Laslett. Row 8 is Tim Dickens and Matt Dyer. Now, they're both quick drivers. Tim Dickens, retirement yesterday after a collision at the chicane, one to watch. Wes Payne starts from 17th alongside Harry Senior, who may be an AM driver, but actually qualified on pole yesterday. And Mike Evans starts from the back. But Harry Senior, remember, was wiped out in an early collision with Ian Payne down at the Melbourne Hairpin. And hopefully they've managed to get those 2 cars fixed and back out there. Some interesting fashion choices on show around Donington Park, but you kind of have to come dressed for all conditions. I think normally I would be a bit more judgmental towards someone wearing shorts and a coat, but it is that kind of day here at Donington. The conditions changing pretty frequently. We've had rain on and off through the morning, as we've just heard. Perhaps it's starting now to make a bit of a return. And if you are a British motor racing enthusiast and you are planning a day out at the racetrack, it's best to come prepared for everything. And we've even been told there's a chance of some hailstone, apparently, later in the day. It doesn't feel like that now because it is still pretty mild, actually, despite the wet conditions. It's not been cold at any point today. And actually more risk of thunderstorm, perhaps, than anything else, we were told later on this afternoon, perhaps midway through the 3-hour British GT race. There is car number 12, that's Charlie Lauer, who will be starting from 7th on the grid. I did want to try and get a quick look towards the back and see if I can figure out who is or isn't there. Whoever does make it onto the grid is in for a treat, because the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit, as we've seen already this weekend, always produces good racing. It's a track made for one-make racing, made for slipstreaming, really. We often think of places like Silverstone as being slipstream central, but Donington's got a really high average speed as well. That run through the Craners, the old hairpin up towards McLean's, then of course the long back straight past the exhibition centre. It all sort of bunches everybody together just in time for the tight and twisty final sector, where you can maybe get a bit brave under braking. So it is it's a fantastic track, a really lovely track to drive, so I'm told, and I would say an even better one to race on, really. Now, here are some of the cars at the back of the grid. Who do we have at the back? Is Tim Dickens going to be there? Oh, well, we'll never know. I think Tim Dickens was there. I think I spotted him in the background. There wasn't too much concern about him. It was more Harry Senior and Ian Payne. Their cars were the worst damaged, I think, after yesterday's collision. So whether or not we have numbers 28 and 32 at the back of the grid, I'm not so sure. That was Armstrong coming through. Front runners arrived down at the Melbourne hairpin. They've not been able to get rid of all of that gravel, have they, from the Ginetta Junior race down there? So pretty slippery conditions still. As you get a good look there at what the vantage point is for the spectators down at the chicane. Pretty much the same view that our slow motion camera has. It's a fantastic place to go and watch from, right up near the entrance to the track as well, so you don't have to go walking too far to get yourself a brilliant view of one of the real action hotspots on the track. So Will Smith then pulls up onto pole position, the sunlight glinting off the bronze bodywork of the number 27 car. Paul Donkin pulls in line alongside him. You can see him looking over there to make sure that he's pulling into the grid slot correctly. You can't really see your own grid slot, but what he could see is whether or not he was level with Will Smith. So that's why he was looking over at Will there to make sure he's in the right spot. The rest of the field pulling in behind. Now I think that is Ian Payne, the PT Motorsport car that was coming into shot. So I think he is there. Harry Senior also run out of PT Motorsport. That would have made for a slightly awkward debrief after the race. As the pit crews get ready, and we get ready for 17 minutes of Vertex Caterham 7 UK Championship racing, and William Smith and Paul Donkin on the front row of the grid together. The lights go on, and when they go out, we're away and racing then in the sunshine now at Donington Park. Off we go, and a good start made by someone at the back there. That was one of those PT Motorsport cars, I think, wasn't it? Already gaining some ground. Number 93, Mike Evans, as the leaders head through Redgate Corner with Paul Donkin out in front. So Donkin gets the best of Will Smith. Moves through into the lead of the race, one or two of them sliding wide over the curb, but they're all safely through, and they make their way down the Craner curves for the first time. Slippery conditions. These cars can be a bit of a handful in the wet, and drivers just try to sort of scope out the conditions. Lewis Thompson there up the inside, and moves into third position. That was at the expense of Justin Armstrong, number 23, who was involved in that contact with Tim Dickens towards the end of yesterday's race. He's now got Simmons behind him, number 49, and then Charlie Lauer trying to join in the fun as well. Round McLean's they go. Paul Donkin very wide up at McLean's corner there. Paul, a very experienced racer of these kind of cars. I seem to recall seeing him in the Ariel Atoms and other sort of Caterham-style cars in the past. Does enjoy this style of racing, does Paul Donkin, and he finds himself with the race lead for now as we head down the back straight. But here comes the slipstream, and here comes Lewis Thompson up the inside, and in the end makes it look very easy. Moves into the lead. I'm deliberately not getting too excited about lead changes just yet, because we're going to have several of them over the course of the race, and it really is the last couple that are of the most significance. Armstrong then, Thompson into the lead. Donkin second, Smith third, then Armstrong fourth, fifth position Simmons, sixth is Lauer. Side by side then for seventh place, that's Jones versus Cooper. And I think Carl Jones came out of that on top. Yes, he did. Stays ahead of Cameron Cooper. Round Goddard's we head then for the first time. We've had 19 cars start the race, which means everyone is there. That's good news. So keep an eye to the likes of Ian Payne and Harry Senior moving through further back. In fact, Senior's up into 12th place already, isn't he? There he is, look, on the middle of the pack. There goes Cooper. He's now gone past Carl Jones, but then skates out too wide through Redgate Corner. Jones gets him straight back again, and not far behind them is Harry Senior's number 28 car. I suspect sporting maybe a slightly different livery today after the replacement body panels were attached overnight. Oh, up the curb goes Cooper, and he's in the gravel. He's going to do well to get out of that, which he does, thankfully. Keeps his foot down. The Team Parker Racing driver will lose a couple of positions, but at least is still in the race. As the leading group makes its way through McLean. Now, the leading two are getting away, and actually they themselves are separating slightly, so maybe I should have got more excited about that lead change, because actually it could prove to be a pivotal one. Lewis Thompson, 7 tenths clear now of Paul Donkin as they head for the exhibition straight, and I think that gap's gone out again in the middle sector. He was about 2 and a bit tenths quicker in Sector 1 was Thompson. And yeah, Sector 2, the gap's up to 1.3, so setup-wise, Lewis Thompson has absolutely nailed this. But will that continue to be the case as the road dries out over the rest of the race, I wonder? Lovely sight they make as they flick from the left to the right through the Fogarty S's. Change for third, that was. Justin Armstrong up the inside of Will Smith through the Melbourne hairpin. As the rest of them make their way through as well, but there are the leaders, look, and you can see the way that they are moving over onto the wetter side of the road, trying to cool the tyres down a little bit. So they are obviously a little bit concerned. These cars, like I said, they're a bit of a handful. They tend to slide around a lot, and that looks great, and it makes them good fun to drive, but not great for preserving tyres in these wet conditions. Battle for third then makes its way through Redgate Corner. Justin Armstrong, the AM leader. He is third overall. Carl Jones next in the AM class is down in seventh, so nothing else. An AM victory looking fairly likely here for Justin Armstrong. How's Harry Senior getting on? Well, only 1 place gained that time, actually. And in fact, he's back down to 12th again now because he had briefly got past Wes Payne and then dropped back behind him again. So Harry Senior, perhaps his car still a little bit damaged after yesterday's race. Not making quite the electrifying progress through the field that I expected him to. Sorry, Ian Payne. Wes Payne. It's Ian Payne, isn't it, that he was battling with, and it was Ian who he sort of tangled with yesterday. So as they head down towards the bottom of the hill, into the chicane we go, and change now with Charlie Lauer getting past Will Smith. So Charlie Lauer into 4th position. I'm going to just correct myself, actually. It's not Ian Payne that Harry Senior is battling with. It will be Wes Payne, because Ian Payne, I don't think, took the start. So we were missing one from the grid. And I think it was Ian Payne who had that collision down here at the Melbourne Hairpin yesterday, which sent him flying into the back of Harry Senior's car and did an awful lot of damage. Ian appeared to be okay, but the car quite badly damaged, and I don't think they've been able to get it out for race number 2. Lead group then heads around the hairpin at Goddard's, works its way across the line. I mean, look at Lewis Thompson. He has checked out 3.2 seconds his lead now. This is unheard of in Caterham 7 UK Championship racing, a series that prides itself on close racing, close finishes, lots of overtaking, and Lewis Thompson is making it look very, very easy indeed as he stretches his legs out in front. Donkin second, Lauer up to third. Those 2 places gained on the previous lap. Further back, this is Ben Simmons. He's battling away with Carl Jones, who runs second in the AM class, and with Justin Armstrong losing a couple of positions on the previous lap, actually he's getting closer now, isn't he, to the lead is Jones there. Meanwhile, in the pit lane is Chris Fraser, and he, as you can quite clearly see, has got a tyre issue, the right rear tyre off the rim, basically. I wonder whether that was caused by running over some debris or bits of gravel on the road, as well as limiting your grip. It can sometimes cut a tyre down, or it could be contact with another driver, I suppose, but anyway, he's in the pit lane. He will go a lap down, more than likely, as they change that right rear tyre. So, race leader Lewis Thompson heading through the chicane. There is the AM class leader, Justin Armstrong, just ahead of Will Smith. So Will Smith slipping backwards in this race, having started from pole position, yesterday's winner. Not quite got the same performance today that he had yesterday. And that's a shame, really, isn't it, that it's been a wet race, because that has changed the dynamic of the race quite a bit. We've still got some good battling going on further back. That's Payne, who continues to gain ground, actually. Wes Payne, one of those who did start from the back of the grid, and he is charging through the order nicely. He's up alongside the number 49 now, Ben Simmons. So, yeah, he's really charging through the order. Simmons has lost out to Carl Jones on this lap as well, so 2 places lost for Simmons. But the man on the move is car number 50, isn't he? Wes Payne. In fact, he really is on the move. He's just on the fastest lap, a 1:43.6. That was 4 tenths quicker than the race leader even. So really flying is Wes. And onto the tail now of Jones. Almost makes you wonder whether he's gone for different tyres or just a different setup of some sort to the others, because he's driving past them like they're standing still. He just mirror signal manoeuvre straight past Carl Jones. And Wes Payne into the top 6. Now, what further progress can he make? We've still got 9 minutes and 20 seconds left in this race. He, in the first sector, has gone 3 tenths quicker than the race leader. I don't think he'll win the race, but a podium's on, I think, isn't it? Because he's already on the tail of Will Smith. This has to be a tyre choice, doesn't it? I wonder, has he gone for a slick tyre? That looks like a slick to me. So I think he's gone for slicks and the others are all on the treaded tyre. Yes, definitely. From that shot there, you can see that he is on slick tyres and the others are on treaded tyres. So actually, he could maybe win this race, although we don't know what Lewis Thompson's on tyre-wise. He could have gone for the same gamble, but if he has, he is not going as quickly as Wes Payne is. Wes Payne having started 17th on the grid. There you can see the tyres. Definitely he's on slicks, isn't he? And that makes sense now because he's absolutely fine. And that's Donkin. That is Donkin. He's lost out to Lauer now, so Lauer into second position. Begs the question now what tyres Charlie Lauer is on then, because he's showing a lot more performance in this race than he did yesterday. Head towards us up the hill. He's sort of running on the wet side of the road, which tells me he is trying to cool his tyres down. Yes, there are grooves in those tyres. What about Thompson then? Thompson across the line. Does a 44.1. I don't know whether he's on wets or slicks, but he is quicker than everyone apart from Wes Payne. I think he's on wets. I think Lewis Thompson is on wet tyres. He's just doing a better job than everyone else on wet tyres. But Wes Payne is flying. He's in the 42s, and Matt Armstrong as well. Matt Armstrong actually now, car number 19, has just set the new fastest lap of the race. So Armstrong, who started 8th on the grid, plummeted down the order, but he's now started to pick his way back through because, I presume, he's gone for the slick tyre choice as well. You can sort of see by the body language of the cars, can't you? The ones on wets are sort of lazily sliding through the corners as their tyres overheat, whilst Wes Payne's car, much dartier, much more agile and nimble and pointy, and he's just driven past Paul Donkin and now gets to the inside of Charlie Lauer as well. So the question now becomes, has he got enough time to catch Lewis Thompson out in front? The gap is going to be something like 7 seconds. We'll get a proper read on it at the end of the exhibition straight. Actually, Charlie Lauer coming back there briefly at Wes Payne, but Payne will drive clean past him down the exhibition straight and then brakes visibly later into the chicane. And you should see here the change of direction, the speed he carries off the corner is going to propel him ahead. So 7.5 seconds he is behind Thompson, but on the previous lap was 1.3 seconds faster than him. Touch and go. This all screech of tyres. Was someone pointing the wrong way then at the Melbourne hairpin? They're all still there, I think. So Wes Payne second, third Lauer, fourth Donkin. But keep an eye to Matt Armstrong. He's into the top 5 now as well, so he might not win the race, but he should definitely get on the podium. But can Wes Payne catch the leader? Took 2/10 out of Thompson in the final sector. That's not quite as much as I expected him to. And he needs to be taking more than that if he's going to have any chance of catching over the remaining 6.25 minutes. So 42.7 for Payne, 42.6 for Matt Armstrong further back. But of course, they were both doing a fair bit of overtaking on that lap. Matt Armstrong, though, is now in clean air, 2.5 seconds worth of clean air before he catches the next couple of cars ahead, which will be Charlie Lauer and Paul Donkin. First sector time for Wes Payne is faster than anyone else has done so far in this race, and it was about 3/4 of a second quicker than the race leader. So he's now beginning the charge after Thompson, an inspired tyre choice if this pays off. And, well, we'll see if it pays off at the end of the race. But of course, the further we go into the race, the less performance Lewis Thompson's wet tyres are going to have. And in a way, the drier the track gets, the more performance Wes Payne's tyres will have. The middle sector, he's another half a second up. So 5.1 seconds now the margin. So he's already taken on this lap 2.2 seconds out of the race leader. Here comes Matt Armstrong. He's gone past Paul Donkin. And now he's moving up alongside Charlie Lauer. So this is for third place, the other slick-shod car. Of course, to overtake there, you've got to go on the damper side of the road. But it is only damp now, not wet. So even there, with nice warm slicks, you should be able to generate a fair amount of grip. So waiting for the leaders to come through then. At the start of that lap, it was a 7.3 second advantage for Lewis Thompson. Well, you can see by the eye, it's not 7.3 seconds anymore. What is it officially? It is 4 seconds. 4 seconds, 3.2 seconds faster that time was Wes Payne. There you can see the difference. Even in traffic, he was taking 1.2, 1.3 seconds out of the leader, but give him clean air, and he's unstoppable. Now, 4 seconds the gap. There is definitely enough time for him to get there. There might even be time at this rate for Armstrong to get there as well. There you can see the progress that he's made. He started 17th on the grid. Fairly rapid progress even from the very start of the race, but then after that, he has been carving through the field. And as too, in fairness, has Matt Armstrong, who is now up into third position. But I reckon by the end of the lap even, Wes Payne could be with the leader, couldn't he? Round McLean's corner then. Payne, remember, an AM driver as well, leading his class at the moment. And he'll be very, very pleased with that if he can stay there. Looks likely to, doesn't he, really? Because Justin Armstrong is the next best AM driver, some 16.5 seconds behind. Into the chicane we go then. And Wes Payne not quite within striking range yet, but he will be, I think, by the beginning of the next lap, and that will leave him a couple of laps to try and find a way past Thompson. I really don't see how Lewis Thompson's going to have any defence here, really. It is worth making the point, though, that Lewis Thompson has driven a fabulous race because there are only 2 drivers on slick tyres. The next best car on wets is Charlie Lauer, 9 seconds behind Lewis Thompson. So Lewis Thompson has still outpaced the other cars that are on the same tyres as him by 9 seconds. It's just, unfortunately, there are 2 drivers who are much quicker than him on slicks. Here comes one of them, Wes Payne up alongside then as they head towards Redgate Corner. That is the outside line, so at least Lewis Thompson is trying to put up some sort of a defence, but I don't think it's going to last very long. Stays in front going into Redgate Corner. On the exit, you would expect Wes Payne to carry more speed down the hill, which he does. Lewis Thompson moves across aggressively to defend. But is he going to work? He's trying to force Payne onto the wet side of the road. That was really clever stuff. That really is Lewis Thompson's only defence here. If he can force Wes Payne to go onto the wet stuff, then that might just keep him behind. But Wes has had a really good run out of the old hairpin. He's up the inside now as we head towards McLean's Corner. Now the inside line will be wet, and so he's got to be a little bit careful here. Lewis Thompson will try and get the switch back if he can, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Wes Payne has managed to go through. It was a well thought out defence, that actually, by Lewis Thompson. But in the end, there was nothing he could do, and Wes Payne goes through into the race lead and will now try to pull away, and I think we'll probably have some success in doing so. Now, the other point to make here is that whilst they were battling, Matt Armstrong has taken chunks of time out of them, because Matt Armstrong in the first sector was a full second quicker than Wes Payne, and in the second sector, he is 1.5 seconds quicker than Wes Payne. So a purple middle sector there for Matt Armstrong. This race is not over yet. We're going to have one more lap to go at the end of this one. If Matt Armstrong can get past Lewis Thompson quickly, he might yet be able to chase down Wes Payne and challenge for the win. His first opportunity to get past Lewis Thompson is going to come on the inside line into the Goddard's hairpin. And interestingly, Lewis does not put up as much of a defence there, does he, as he did against Wes Payne earlier on in the lap. So what's this gap going to be? We're starting the final lap of racing now. Lewis Thompson tucking up behind Matt Armstrong, perhaps to work with him. The gap is 1.8 seconds, but it was a fastest lap there for Matt Armstrong. 1:40.0. That was 2.6 seconds quicker than Wes Payne. He is 1.8 seconds back, but of course Wes will now be going quicker again because he's no longer battling with Lewis Thompson for the race lead. They've got the lapped car of Fraser here to deal with down into the old hairpin. That's going to delay Armstrong, definitely, although Fraser drifts out wide, so Armstrong gets through pretty easily. And the gap in the first sector came down to 1.2, so Armstrong is quicker than Wes Payne, isn't he? He's genuinely quicker. He was 0.6 quicker in the first sector alone. So has Wes Payne got this win made, or is Matt Armstrong going to be able to challenge him? Up through McLean's we go, towards Coppice for the last time. And are we going to have another twist in the tail here? I said that we would get lots of lead changes. For much of the race, it didn't really look like that was going to happen, but it has come to life in the closing stages with this tyre gamble paying dividends for Wes Payne and Matt Armstrong. At the end of the middle sector, the gap is under a second, 9/10. I just don't think he's going to get there. I think he might just run out of time. And do you know what? It was the time that he lost behind the back marker there at the old hairpin, I think, that is going to cost him a shot at the race win. He will be as late as he dares, Matt Armstrong, on the brakes into Melbourne. In fact, he does make some good gains on the way into the penultimate corner. There's one more turn, one more braking zone, one more opportunity to try and make the overtake. Is he going to get there? He's just going to run, I think, a corner short here. Round the final turn, Wes Payne's outbraked himself, though. Runs wide onto the wet stuff. It's going to be a bit of a drag race to the line, but Wes Payne, by the skin of his teeth, will hang on to win the second race of the weekend in the Vertex Caterham 7 UK Championship, a race that came alive in the second half as the 2 cars on slick tyres made good on that tyre gamble and came through to finish first and second. Matt Armstrong set the fastest lap of the race there on the final lap of the race, 1:39.481, and took another 1.5 seconds out of the leader, but by 3 and a bit tenths, it wasn't quite enough. Wes Payne hanging on for victory. Now, further back, we lost sight a bit of Will Smith towards the end of that race. He dropped all the way back to 9th position on the road. But that then becomes 8th place because I think maybe Carl Jones has had a penalty or something. No, he was behind, actually. It was just a transponder glitch. So, yeah, 8th place for Will Smith. But Wes Payne is absolutely delighted with that. Had the race been another lap longer, in fact, had the race been another corner longer, I don't think he'd have won. But he managed to hang on and does claim the victory. And might be his first victory in the category, actually. He certainly reacting as if it is. A slightly more subdued Lewis Thompson behind, who will not be terribly happy, really, with third position. Wes Payne also, of course, the AM class winner in that race, and he's still celebrating as they head for the exhibition straight. Fantastic stuff. Really, really good stuff, that, and very happy for Wes Payne. It's nice to see those tyre gambles come off, because it did turn that race into an absolute thriller, and it's nice to see drivers rewarded for a bit of bravery, isn't it? And because that ultimately will have been a decision made by the drivers, I suspect. Now, Matt Armstrong is going for a victory lap. He is the Pro-Am winner. He didn't win the race, and perhaps he was that engrossed in chasing down Wes Payne that he didn't notice the checkered flag. So he's gone through to take the checkered flag a second time, and will probably get a rap on the knuckles for that. But anyway, he's not too bothered. Second place, and he will have enjoyed that as well, charging through the field. He's caught the fire truck now, which should be his signal that the race is over, and that he's probably done a lap longer than he should have done. So makes his way down through the old hairpin. He will go past the fire truck and head for the pit lane. So Wes Payne still celebrating as he arrives back in the pit lane. Numbers 93 and 1 being given a black and white warning flag. It's a bit late for that, isn't it, really? 93, well, 1 is Lewis Thompson, isn't it? 93 is Evans further back. Mike Evans, not sure what that was all about. But anyway, Wes Payne gets the victory for TfL Racing, and it's Team Parker Racing's Matt Armstrong who comes up just short in the end with second place. Then it was Lewis Thompson in third, Charlie Lauer in fourth, and Paul Donkin coming home in fifth ahead of Justin Armstrong, Cameron Cooper, Will Smith, Carl Jones, and Oliver Smith to complete the top 10. Ben Simmons was 11th ahead of Matt Dyer and Mike Evans, with Tim Dickens 14th, 15th Tom Eden, 16th, I suspect still a slightly wounded car of Harry Senior. Rupert Laslett came home 17th with Gary Curtis 18th, and Chris Fraser a lap down after losing that tyre in the early stages. So the Vertex Caterham 7 Championship UK will be back out again for a third race later on in the day, about 5 to 6, well worth sticking around for. Race 2 didn't look like it was going to be much of a contest, really, in the early stages. Lewis Thompson, in damp conditions, despite not getting a great start, did not waste any time getting to the front of the pack. It was Donkin who led through the first corner, but it was the green car of Thompson, number 1, that was making all of the moves in the early going. A wet-ish track, but it wasn't raining. The track conditions were getting better, and Lewis Thompson, by the end of the lap, was in the lead and then immediately started to pull away, almost as if he was on different tyres from everybody else, but he wasn't. He was on the wet tyres and simply cleared off into the distance. Charlie Lauer was battling with Paul Donkin further back. There were, however, a couple of cars who had gone for different tyres, namely Wes Payne and Matt Armstrong. And in the second half of the race, once they'd got those tyres up to temperature, they made good on that gamble. Wes Payne charging his way past first Paul Donkin, then Charlie Lauer, and then set about bridging nearly an 8-second gap to the race leader, Lewis Thompson. Matt Armstrong was the other driver who had taken the slick tyre gamble, and he too was following Wes Payne through the field, and at times looked like the quicker of the two. Eventually, Wes Payne caught and got past Lewis Thompson, who put up the best defence that he could. Matt Armstrong was able to get past Lewis as well before too much longer after that, and having made the move at Goddard's at the beginning of the final lap, he then had one lap to try and chase down Wes Payne. He came up just short, despite a mistake for Wes Payne at the final corner. He held on to claim the victory in race number 2 in the Caterham 7 UK Championship at Donington.